Hey, good morning, everybody. I'm Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio. Thanks so much for being here today. Okay, it's a pleasure to have you here, along with my guest today, my special guest, Howie Knoff. Dr. Howie Knoff is the president, as you probably know, of Project Achieve, an expert, a school psychologist, past president of the National Association of School Psychologists, and a frequent guest here. Again, Project Achieve is projectachieve.info. If you want to go check out all the wonderful consulting work and all the great information that Howie has over there. We're going to be talking today with Howie, and I hope Howie's listening, I know, with Deborah Crockett, his guest. Dr. Crockett was the first African-American president of the National Association of School Psychologists. I'm hoping she calls in. She has not called in yet. That's a signal to Howie. Maybe he can email her and remind her. She may have forgotten, because I hope she can join us today, because we're going to talk about recruiting minorities into education and also into the mental health professions that support education, especially during these racially challenging times. Okay, which should be less and less, not more and more, if I may, okay? Something I can't understand, but I guess all you have to do is look at history to understand that for some silly reason. All right, so we're going to have a really good discussion with Howie, and I hope Dr. Crockett as well. We're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org, and as you know, that's the home website of our American Consortium for Equity in Education. Go over to ace-ed.org. Our magazine is over there, which we are quite proud of. That's called Equity and Access. We're the only education journal focusing completely on equity and access to education for everyone, every student, and how we can make that happen. So please go over, check it out. Okay, we're very proud of our magazine. All of our podcasts are over at ace-ed.org, and links to our other websites as well. Okay, it's a good place to go, and I hope you visit, and I hope everything we do, by the way, is free, so please sign up for a subscription, and we'll send you the link to the magazine every other month when it comes out. Okay, I think Howie probably got my signal, but I'm going to bring him on here right now. Good morning, Howie. Larry's here. Happy New Year.
Hey, Happy New Year, Larry. How are you?
I'm just fine. Did you get my subtle signal that Deb hasn't called in yet?
I did, and I just texted her. I was in the middle of running your phone number in there, so she and I talked yesterday. So,
okay, so call in.
There must be something, might be something going on. So.
Well, let me just say to you right now, she can't make it today for some reason. We, of course, are going to do the show, but we'll bring her back on the future show. Okay, but I hope
that
she can call
great.
in. And I'm watching the board to make sure, because it'd be an honor to have her here. She's I'll say it again, first African-American president of the National Association of School Psychologists, and God knows we need more and more of that. And she's also a Lifetime Achievement Award from NASB winner, so I think that's just great. Okay? Howie, so
yes.
Hopefully she'll call in. Howie, okay, I love the way you titled our show today, Ebony and Ivory. Okay, you should contact some major songwriters, okay, and see if they could do a song about that. I don't know.
I'll have to put that into consideration.
Yeah, just consider it. Think about it, okay? Because we're going to talk about recruiting minorities into education, okay? And also into the mental health professions, that's service education. And this is extremely, extremely important, okay? Because kids need role models, okay? Everybody needs diversity. I mean, it's really the right thing to do, and we're having more and more trouble about that. So, Howie, I hope you can answer all this. The current status, if you have it, and the numbers of minority educators, okay, and mental health practitioners in our schools today, okay? What's the current status? Do you know offhand?
Well, yeah, they're significantly underrepresented, and they have been underrepresented for really my professional lifetime of, over 40 years. And it's not just a matter of minorities being interested in education. I mean, traditionally they are, and they have been interested in education. Some
Absolutely.
of this is issues of life events. Some of this are historical events. Some of this are political events. And, for example, one of the significant elements from a historical perspective is when you look at back in the 50s when, they passed, the Supreme Court ruled on equity in terms of African-American and Caucasian and other minority kids having equal access to school, what happened was all of the kind of bifurcated system of the black school systems versus the white school systems, when they were combined, many of the African American educators lost their jobs.
Yeah,
they were
exactly.
not encouraged.
It worked the wrong way. Yeah.
It worked the wrong way. So while, we had a Supreme Court talking about equity, what functionally occurred was we lost all of these African-American exceptional educators, and that was not just a historical event. That has paid dividends, negative dividends, as we kind of proceed through into the 2023s.
Yeah, and by the way, Deb has just joined us. Hi, Deb. We didn't lose that African-American educator.
Good.
Hi, Deb.
Thank you.
I'm Larry, Deb. Nice to have you here. Can you hear me?
Sorry
Deborah?
about the delay.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm
Don't worry
here.
about it. You're here now, and that's great. Call me Larry. It's wonderful to have you here on the show. It's a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome to the Lifetime Achievement Award winner, and I'd introduce you to my other guests, but I have a feeling you know Howie.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I give Howie was very instrumental in making me take a chance and do something I thought would never happen, and it did.
What may I ask
what
that was?
He knows it, too.
What was that?
Sure.
Did you say?
Starting establishing a minority scholarship award for students who wanted to become, for students of color who wanted to become school psychologists.
Wow.
Because I think at the time we only had 10 members, and now I've forgotten how many scholarships have been awarded.
That
right.
is fabulous.
The number is
to
rising.
both of you. Okay.
Well, and Larry, the backstory is, I was president of the National Association of School Psychologists back in 1989, and I was, the second youngest president. But as I looked around in my professional work in the field, I recognized that we did not have the minority representation, and especially the African American. And, it's a pipeline, and that's what really recruitment is all about. It's a pipeline.
Yes, it is.
And so if we don't get students interested in education and the mental health professions, even when they're in high school, and then moving into their undergraduate careers, then we lose those opportunities.
Right.
But the other reality is that, there's a financial, if you're, a school psychologist is getting an educational specialist or a doctoral degree. So this is after their undergraduate degrees. And, there's got to be some kind of financial support to these students. But more importantly, there's got to be symbolic support. We've got to make sure that our minority students, whether it's in education or in mental health, realizes that they are valued and that it is important to support them, not just financially, but in terms of who they are and what they bring to the educational table.
And, Howie, you just brought up an interesting point. You said, and Deb, too, please comment on this. You say we have to support them. And I agree. Of course, I agree with that generic statement. But my question, who is the we? Okay, who? When you say we have to support them, okay, and of course you guys did it in ASP and all that sort of thing, but we're talking to a more generic audience. Who's that we? Howie, you want to answer that one? Who do you want to support them? Who do we need to support them?
It's easy to say the we is everyone. It's everyone in education, but it's got to go beyond that, and especially in right now in the 2020s, 2023. I'll give you an example. Who the we should be. It should be not just the educational system. It should be our communities.
Right.
In terms of what we're paying teachers and mental health people, but it also at this point it's got to also be our government. Give you what I think is a sad example. Sarah Huckabee Sanders just became the governor of Arkansas last week.
I know.
Okay? One of her first acts, one of her first executive orders was to ban the teaching of critical race theory in Arkansas schools.
Yes.
Now, there's two critical points here. One, critical race theory, almost to the 99th degree, is not being taught in the United States school system, in the public school
system. That doesn't matter. Why would the facts matter? Look, don't mix me up with the facts.
She makes a political act. And what she said, and I'm quoting her, she said, critical race theory is antithetical to traditional American values of neutrality, equality, and fairness. Well, I don't know that that's how the United States was established back in the 1700s. But again, going back to your question, Larry, the we sometimes is also going to be our government that is not making these types of executive orders that are really nonsensical, but they send the wrong message to all of our school children and all of our educators.
Right, and as we keep doing this more and more, there's going to be less and less people who want to get involved in these which used to be the most non-controversial area in the world, is going to be who wants to get involved in a big controversial area. You know, it's unbelievable. And I have to tell you something else. You know, I've said this all along, and Deb, I'd love your thoughts on this. You know, we're always looking for more minority educators. We want Black kids, Latino kids to become educators. We want them to become mental health professionals. Okay, but we have to make the 12 years of. If we expect people to come back as professional educators. Okay, we have to be sure that they are enjoying and learning and engaged in the 12 years of their education, because those are very formative years, as we all know. And if we do not make them engage, who wants to go back to a place where they didn't have a good time? Oh, yeah, I had a lousy time. I was treated like crap. I think I'll go back there and make that my profession. Okay, nobody does that. Okay, who does that?
Right.
All right. So it's a vicious cycle that we've created here, all right? And it's just ridiculous as more and more kids, and I'm talking about Latino and African American and any other group that you want to throw in there. We've got to get them engaged in education. If they're engaged in it, we can talk to them about making it as a profession. Okay, it's unbelievable. And Deb, I got to ask you. You know, when did you start your career as a school psychologist? Can you name the year?
Where did I start?
No, when?
It was not working in a school system. I can tell you, I was very fortunate to have a friend who is a clinical psychologist, and he had been working with this particular family, mother, father, son. And Dad was white and Mom was black. So, you know, I mean, and the kids gave their son pure hell in school. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah.
In school. And the psychologist asked me if I would try and work with him and see if we could get him to open up and talk about what was happening that was causing him to not want to go to school. And the young man gave me a lot of information about what happened from classroom to classroom to classroom to classroom. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Why is the teacher, that school counselor, the school social worker, the school nurse, and God forbid the principal of the school not be looking at what's happening to this one student and doing something to stop the personal attacks and something to help the people in the schools? And this was a very wealthy family, so they could handle things like paying for the child's outside therapy, but inside the school, nothing was happening. So he's getting all these mixed messages from his parents, from the school, from the psychologist, and they weren't looking at the fact that these kids were attacking this young man because he was black. They would not call him biracial. They called him black. And he would change on forms, black or white, and write in biracial.
Yeah.
He had a lot of...
Were the kids who were picking on him, were they mostly white kids or mostly black kids?
They were all, he was the only kid of color in the entire school.
Oh, wow. And where was this? Where was it? In Georgia? Where was it?
It's in Georgia, in Atlanta. Okay. I will not. Okay. I don't want to.
No,
I don't want a
don't
lawsuit, so I won't call their name.
No,
but
just curious,
I was floored. I did not. I had trouble breathing. This is happening to this
Scary
child
stuff.
who is bright enough to know that it's something negative. And it got to the point where the mother, who was black, would not go to school for meetings. Her husband had to go because she was so angry. She would let loose, is the way they put it. Mm. And they eventually withdrew him and sent him to school out of state.
Yeah.
And I thought,
Now, Larry,
story.
let's take that story,
ahead,
back
Howie.
in probably the 70s, all right, 1970s. All right, now let's fast forward.
Deb, was that in the 70s? Deb, when was that?
No, it was in the 90s.
Okay, all right, in the 90s. Okay. All right, so now let's fast forward, okay?
Wow.
Let's fast forward to 2023, okay?
Yeah.
I'm an expert witness right now. I'm an expert witness right now on a federal court case in a state, I'm just going to say out west, where basically the same thing happened to a little kindergarten biracial girl, okay? And it was systemic. It wasn't just her. It was across the entire school district. And they're being sued right now because that little girl's parents had to move her to a different state with all of the racial and issues that this little girl had to deal with as a kindergartner, the trauma, the psychological impact, and so on. So this is not just something that is happening back in the 90s. This is happening, continuing today. But the issue for me right now, and the issue why I wanted to do this program, Larry, is that we've got to put a personal face on these issues.
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
Even though I invoked politics, even though we're talking about, recruitment and so on, when people have friends who are minority friends, and and I'm talking about white people especially, okay, like me, and they hear the stories from a friend, all of a sudden there's a cognitive dissonance because the attitudes, the beliefs, sometimes the stereotypes we have sometimes are broken down when it's being experienced by a friend, and the friend is validating things that we're hearing in the public press about how minorities are feeling and indeed how they're being treated in our schools and why there needs to be equity.
There does need, and I'll tell you to go back to,
wait a minute,
Deb, to go back to the subject at hand. Okay, we're talking about, that school in Georgia that was picking on the biracial young man. Okay, we're talking about a school out west right now. Okay, where they have to screw the school district because the other kids were picking on this biracial young lady.
Right.
Okay, But my point is this, and I'm just going to do this from a personal point of view. I went to school in Philadelphia, Howie, okay, at Overbrook High School, okay, which was this is a while ago now, okay, but a while ago, decades, thousands of years ago, okay. Overbrook High, when I went there, was about 80% African American. Okay, and it was about 20% white. Okay, we had a couple Latino kids thrown in there. Okay, but that was the basic breakdown. I wouldn't say half, but a lot of our teachers from junior high on were African American teachers. Okay, and it never occurred to any of us, and I am not kidding you, to do racial, to pick on anybody racially, because we were in the milieu from 7th grade on of being with African-American kids mostly and white kids, okay, African-American teachers and white teachers. And believe me, there was no difference, okay? There was no difference to approach an African-American kid or an African-American teacher any differently than you would a white kid or a white teacher, okay? Because you learned that, and you learned that because there were black professionals in that school, okay? And that's the way it went. And the reason we have these challenges today is because the schools, the setup of the school is not racially balanced, okay? And the minute somebody comes in, that's not the same. It's like, wow, you stick out like a sore thumb, if I may. Okay, and kids pick on people, and if we don't make sure that people learn to respect everybody, okay, we're going to continually have these problems. That's my rant for today. Okay, what do you think, Deb? What do you think, Deb?
I mean, I agree totally. I mean, I have a personal issue now. Howie, you remember my nephew that used to travel with me? One time he was barely walking until he was grown. His wife is white. Not only is she white, she's white from a county that, they still have their signs up. Niggers are not needed here.
Get out of here.
And so this girl.
Get out of here.
Say what? Oh,
real.
Right.
God.
When you come to Atlanta the next time, I'll take you to the real South.
Oh, my God. Unbelievable.
And this young man, if you met him, he loves meeting people. And we have tried to raise him as someone who accepts people on their merits and not on all this other stuff. And I know we're going to have the real racial discussion because he turned 5 in December and he'll be in public school next. Unless I can. And I thought, I don't want to put him in a snooty private school. Why are you laughing at me? Because you're not telling the truth.
I love the word. I love snooty. I love the word snooty. Okay, that was great.
Oh, it makes me sick. And he does not meet strangers. He does not. If you were to come here, Howie, and I said, this is my friend Howie Knoff, and he does this, and this, Keegan's going. Oh, I didn't say his name. He's going to be interested in what you have to say, and he will show you things that he likes to do. When he was 2 years old, he wanted to do 2 things: learn how to count from 1 to 100. This is a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And how to say all his ABCs. And so he's got 6 aunts. Well, one of them is his grandmother. And we keep him. We've kept him because he did not like nursery school because they wouldn't let him ask questions. I said, okay, we got through that. He learned. He loves to travel. And travel can be anything to him from Atlanta to Grant Park to see the zoo or whatever. But he likes learning. He likes people. He will if he saw the first time he saw a Hindu man with a wrap on his head, and forgive me for not remembering the name of it, and the beard,
turban.
And that's who he walked over.
Yeah.
A turban, right? Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Age. I'm working on a 64K and a 700,000 mini whatever world, but anyway, and he walked up to him, and he said, and he was about 4, I think, and he said, "How do you grow a beard like that?"
Yeah.
Well, the man was so nice, and he said, well, he talked to him about aging and all this stuff, and then he said, "You have an accent." How many 4-year-olds talk to adults and say, "You have an accent"? And the man told him where his country was and all this and things that they do. And he looked at me and wow, that's so interesting. And I thought, public schools will kill this. I'm sorry. I went to Atlanta public schools, I can tell you. And I go in them periodically for other people when they ask me. And I thought, how do we find a good place for him? I would rather he be in a public sector so he can run into the real world, because you're going to have everybody who's poor or not. We went to one school that's in our zone, and my sister and I and his mother were looking at each other and saying, this is not going to work for him, because he's very outspoken. He's he will tell you, no, that's not right. And we get into a discussion. I said, he's used to adults talking to him.
Yeah, but
He
I
can
want to ask you something. I got to ask you something.
Kids.
I got to ask you something. I don't know the answer to this. What percentage, of teachers, and I would imagine it's fairly high, higher than the average certainly. What percentage of teachers in Atlanta public schools are African American? Do you know offhand?
Probably
or just anecdotally?
about 95%. 90 to 95, probably.
Teachers?
Mm-hmm. Atlanta the public school system is a black system. all of
like
the
Philly,
principals and everybody.
Okay, so if he goes to an all-black to a place where there are a lot of black educators, okay, in Atlanta public schools, okay, getting back to the subject at hand, would he learn to would that be good for him? Where's the challenge? And Howie, you can join in here on this one. Where's the challenge?
I mean, I'll go from a research perspective. I mean,
go ahead.
We know from the research that when kids of color have at least one African American or minority teacher, just one in the course of their elementary, middle school careers, they actually academically achieve higher than the kids of color who have all white teachers.
Well, that's
now,
interesting.
again, it is. And you know, again, you got to do some interpretation, and I'm kind of projecting here. You know, it's not because, you know, African American teachers are so much more exceptional. Okay, it's the climate, it's the culture, it's seeing somebody who is like me.
Exactly.
So I know that I can do the same thing, and I can do anything I want. I mean, I don't want to invoke President Obama, but it's the same notion, is that we can succeed in a world that sometimes doesn't want us to succeed. And I'm speaking as a student of color. So, I mean, so the research is clear that having minority educators is absolutely crucial for the kids, but it's also crucial for the adults in terms of the collaboration and the culture and the norms.
And I'm going to swing it around. It's also important, if I may, okay, for if I may, the white kids, okay, to work with people of color, okay, who are in a respectful position, okay. That is incredibly important, and hopefully that would work out well. Deb, go ahead, Deb.
I have asked.
Say
in
something?
fact, I just did this a month ago. I asked. I said I would. I said I'm a graduate of Atlanta Public Schools back in the days when schools were still segregated, and I never thought about going to school with white kids. Didn't care who was in the room. I just wanted to learn. And I come from a very poor background.
Yeah.
And it was only when I got at Georgia State University 2 years after they desegregated that I was really blown off my feet, because I was in an environment where all the professors were white, and they did not want us in the schools. We were still fighting that. And my baby didn't have to go
they didn't want
through
you
that.
in what school? They didn't want black people in the higher ed, or they didn't want black people in the
higher
public
ed.
school?
Yeah, they didn't want
in higher ed. Okay.
Yeah, I mean the professors were. Let's just say it was as though I wasn't there. They would, I mean, they would give. I always had a seat in the back in a corner where it's dark, and they didn't understand that I was driven to get my degree. I didn't care where I sat as long as I got the information. But we had the department chair for this is in graduate school.
Okay.
He called me into his office. And he said, I stood and watched you in class today. You didn't even know I was watching you. He was right. I don't look at those people and then come in. I'm trying to learn. And he said, this department has got to change. We cannot have our students. Because I was really thinking about changing and going to Emory, because I had been talking to some people at Emory, and they said, we'd be glad to have you as a student. But I said, no, I am not going to go into super debt to get what my tax dollars are already paying for. And I stayed, and I was determined to make changes.
Good. I like it. Yep, smart thinking.
No, I said, I'm not going to do that. They are going to meet my needs, or we will meet in court. And my husband said, you really are taking on a lot. I said, let me tell you something. You played football with nothing but white boys, so you don't tell me I can't play. And he left me alone. Howie has met my husband. Well, my husband's deceased, but he was not a little man. And but the dean, I will never forget when the dean said, "Are you ready for a fight?" And I said, "I don't want to fight with people. I just want to be accepted and left alone at some level." But he made a lot of changes in that department that were very positive. And I don't know, I haven't been down there in the last 3 or 4 years because COVID knocked me to the floor. So, But we need that, and we need to see the world in our schools. And when you start getting all of this and all of that, you get a very, very, very narrow view. But Atlanta is a segregated city. We like to say, we're up on we don't believe in all people are equal. No, they're not. The schools are not equal. And if Howie, the next time you come to Atlanta, I'll take you on a tour.
Yeah.
And right now we're fighting to get him in an elementary school that's diverse. And when I say diverse, it's not just black and white. You have Hispanics. You have people from India, from Mexico, from France, all of those. That is an environment that this baby would soak up. He got a doctor's kit. Don't laugh. I had my physical yesterday with a 5-year-old. And he got one for Christmas. And he said, I don't know if I want to be a doctor because people have to take off their clothes and they might not have had a bath. And I thought, what 5-year-old thinks like that?
Yeah.
And my sister said, "It's
at my age, I could dissuade anybody. I got news for you. Yeah.
Say what?
I said at my age, taking off my clothes with a doctor could dissuade anybody from going into the profession. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
No comment on that one.
Yeah.
But he is just one example. He loves to read, and he will let you read to him. He wants to. Now his thing is, can you speak French? I said, not anymore. 30 years ago I could, but I've forgotten it. And he wants to learn French. He thinks that learning French, you have to take him to France. Well, I would go on that trip, but
so
there are others. I don't think he's the exception. I'm not going to say he's the rule, but there are a lot of kids out there like that.
Yeah, there are, and we got to make sure that they're taken care of, and that really brings it all back home. Where we got to leave in just a few minutes here, okay? Howie, Don, where's it going to go? Where do you see it all going? Getting these kids into the right places and all that. We got about 3 minutes left here. Go ahead.
Well, if I had to emphasize one thing, there's so many directions we could go, and none of them have any assurance that it's going to help move us ahead. But I think it's these kind of personal stories that Deb is telling, especially today, that are important. We've got historical blocks, okay? We've got historical blocks in terms of African American kids. We've got the boarding schools of our Native American brothers and sisters. We've got the internment camps of our Japanese families. From a historical. The Holocaust is still there. Okay, so our Islamic brothers and sisters in terms of the phobias of things still from Desert Storm and all of that. Okay. We've got to get this down to a personal level. And here's the critical point. Deb and I have known each other for years, okay? But back to our theme, Ebony and Ivory, okay? At first blush, back whatever it was, 40 years ago, if anybody had said that we would be generational friends, they would say, you're crazy. That's just not going to happen, okay? And it's not that Deb and I agree all the time. We don't. The point is that we're comfortable enough and we have a relationship where if I don't know and I say something stupid from a cultural or a racial perspective, Deb is going to correct me. I mean, she'll call me out. She'll do it respectfully. She'll do it in an appropriate way. Sometimes not. She's laughing. Okay, but we've got the relationship where we're able to learn from each other. That's what we need in our schools.
Exactly.
And again, back to our theme. In the schools, it needs to also be in our, not just our elementary, middle, and high schools, but our undergraduate institutions, in our training programs at the graduate level for educators and mental health people. We've got to build the relationships so that we get to the point where if we don't know, if we're ignorant of something from a cultural or a racial perspective, we're able to get that information, if you will, from the source, and vice versa. Okay, because Deb learns from me, and I don't want to speak for her, but I mean, in terms of me being a white male and my experiences in terms of dealing with other people, and especially dealing with people from colleagues of color. So the personal relationships have to be there. But right now, especially in education, people are afraid because of all of the politics and these state laws and these executive orders. People are afraid to even broach the topic anymore, and that's just sad. And we've got to broach these topics.
You're darn right we do, and you have to do them from a respectful and non-antagonistic point of view. Okay, and it's just amazing. We got to go, guys. You two are fun to talk to. Deb, thank you for joining us today. You are something else.
Thank you for having us.
You're terrific, Dr. Deborah Crockett. Okay, congratulations on that Lifetime Achievement Award from NASP. Boy, you deserve it.
It was huge. It blew me away, I tell you.
It's huge. Huge. And
see, what I do is what we should be doing. So I don't think about Lifetime Achievement Awards and all of that stuff. A lifetime achievement for me is if kids get to have what they need as they are in school. They're treated equally as human beings who have the capacity to do it. That's my Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, you succeeded in that one, too, I got to tell you. Howie, thank you, my friend.
Thank you, Larry. Always.
Okay. Both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Take care. Enjoy the winter.
Okay, and Howie, you got to call me back.
Enjoy the winter. I'm up in Maine. Enjoy the winter. Bye-bye.
Take care, Larry.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, pal. Bye-bye. All right. Good people, okay? Howie's over at Project Achieve, and you should check out. He does great consulting all over the country. ProjectAchieve.info. All right? And Deb is amazing right there, Dr. Crockett. All right, we'll archive the show over at ace-ed.org. I got to go. Hey, everybody, thanks for listening.